I decided to write 3 functions, one to group the records by account key, one to sum up all the entries for each account key, and one to print out summary statistics like the mean and standard deviation. I named my function groupData, and I decided to make it take the data as an argument and return the dictionary mapping account keys to lists of records. Now I could have left the function like this and made it always group by account key, but I wanted to leave some flexibility there. So I added an extra argument key name, which would indicate the key to group by. Then I indented the code I had previously, so it would be part of the function, and I changed the variable I was looping over to be the input data. I also changed the field name I was grouping by to be the input key name rather than account key. Then I changed each of the variable names to be suitably generic, and finally returned the grouped data. Finally, I called this function to create the same engagement by account dictionary that I had previously. Now the calculation I asked you to do for number of lessons will use this same engagement by account dictionary, so it actually wasn't necessary to write this function just yet. But I liked the idea of writing it because this felt like a clean interface for a function. It takes in some data and it groups it by some key name. Later you'll see that the library Pandas has a function that works pretty similarly to this one. Next, I moved on to the function to sum up the entries for each account key. I named my function SumGroupedItems, and I had it take as inputs the grouped data and the field name to sum up. In this case, the field name definitely needed to be an argument, because I wanted to sum up both the total minutes visited and the lessons completed. Again, I indented the code I had previously to be a part of the function. Next, I changed the dictionary I was looping over to be the input grouped data. And I changed the field name I was summing up to be the input field name. Again, I updated each of the variable names to be suitably generic. And finally, I returned the summed data. Again, I called my function to recreate the total minutes by account dictionary that I'd created previously. Next, I was ready to write a function to print summary statistics about the data, such as the mean and standard deviation. I named my function describeData, and I had it take one argument, the data to describe. Then I moved all these print statements within the function, and I changed the data I was summarizing to be the argument data. I also moved the import statement to the top of the cell, and I called my new function to describe the total minutes data. When I reran this cell, I got the same results as before, which is good. Next, I was ready to analyze the lessons completed by account using the functions I'd just written. I started with the engagement data grouped by account, and then I summed up the number of lessons completed for each account key. Then I called the describeData function, and again I needed to take the values of my lessons completed by account dictionary before passing it into the describeData function. When I ran this cell, I saw that the mean number of lessons completed in the first week is about 1.5, with a standard deviation of 3. It makes sense that there would be a lot of variation, since some students might complete a lot more lessons in the first week than others. The minimum number of lessons completed is 0, which is not surprising. I certainly expected there would be some students who didn't complete any lessons in their first week. And the maximum is 36, which is quite some. Now, you probably didn't write exactly the same functions that I did, and that's fine. There's a lot of valid ways to do this. As long as you got the correct answers, then you're good.